Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this episode of The Bite-Sized Project Manager. I'm David Barrett, your host and the principal and founder of ProjectBites.com. If you've never been to our site, check us out. 150 speakers, 330 hours of content, a great place to be. And I say it because our guest today is one of those 150 speakers, comes to us with a lot of knowledge in the requirements area, the BA space, the project management space, and others. Robin Goldsmith, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Robin Goldsmith is, or JD, works directly with and trains businesses and project professionals to get the right results, right, that their business needs via requirements analysis, quality and testing, software acquisitions, project management and leadership metrics, real ROI, and process improvement. That's quite a resume or quite a list, Robin. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So you come from the project space. Everything we do comes from those projects, a project, as opposed to others that are focused on the project side. You are with a strength on the requirement side, the beginning, and I've been part of that business analysis space for a number of years myself and know it fairly well. But it's fascinating, and I love this title. It is worth the beginning of our conversation. Reconciling seemingly separate specialties. So, what problems are you trying to solve here?
Well, I think we have to approach that from two different directions. The first is that my resume, which you just read, uh, lists 6, 7, 8 things that I focus on. And the conventional wisdom is pick one. But I don't think that these are separate things. I see these as all part of the same thing. But I don't think the rest of the world necessarily is accustomed to thinking that way. And that interferes with, frankly, with my ability to get business, because people say, oh, well, he's just dabbling in everything, and let me go talk to somebody who's a specialist in one. I'm a specialist in all of them because they don't work independently. They only work together.
Interesting. And yeah, corporations who employ project professionals or project managers or senior project managers, they like that. Hey, build it on time, on scope, on budget. Larger corporations, banking, finance, telco, number of organizations we know employ a team of business analysts at the far end or at the front end, and then there's the leadership team, and then there's the testing team, and yeah, I mean, one might say no, they've got to be separate. They're very, very special. Are you suggesting that one might look at a career that has, like you do, that hits all those pieces? Is that the object of the game here, as far as you're concerned?
Well, I'm not sure that that's necessarily the conclusion. I wouldn't tell people to spread themselves too thin. I've come to this over time, and I think I've been capable in each of these seemingly different disciplines, and realized that they all work together. I
Well, so
think I think
why do you think, Robin, that and thanks for that. Why do you think that organizations treat them separately?
well, I can make a flip answer, which probably would just annoy a lot of people, so
Not
I
you don't
won't.
you don't annoy people. You can't. But give me something.
Well, I think that certainly there is a need for specialization. I think that bringing specialized skills to the equation is very important. And in fact, I think that Agile has done a disservice by demeaning the specialized skills. Uh, I see it most in the quality and testing community. where a lot of the agilists say, "Oh, we don't need any quality and testing professionals. Developers, coders can do it all." And they long ago decided that project managers were, Satan. So I think that they've done a disservice to a lot of folks in a lot of areas.
And you focus on agile. Why is that? Why do you think that?
Only because agile seems to suck up a lot of the oxygen for the past 25 years.
Yes, yes, it has. Is that changing these days, do you think?
I see more and more statements to the effect that maybe agile isn't quite as perfect as it's been touted to be,
Mhm.
but I don't know that it's changing that much.
Well, I certainly hear it myself. And what you're saying is that agile, correct me if I'm wrong, but agile had a way of bringing all of these roles together, did it? Or was agile
No,
more separating them all out?
neither. They just discarded them. They they kind of assume, agile. I mean, if you look back to Kent Beck's original time, that it was a programming driven methodology originally, and extreme programming. And Kent Beck, of course, had, I think, a view similar to mine that this stuff fits together, but he was a really excellent coder and worked with a bunch of excellent coders, but he filled in all the cracks, but I don't think he was doing it consciously.
I see. Interesting. Interesting. When you look out there, you say the cracks. When you see most often that the cracks that show up, these specialties, that when they don't talk to each other, what happens? What's where and where do we see this most often? And is it just in the coding world? And what happens as a result?
No, I think that all things considered, project management has a long history of failure. Uh, and I've certainly managed projects that were the equivalent of the Vietnam War, and I was uh, more responsible for that than I realized at the time.
Hmm.
But I wasn't the only one. Uh, but you know the gist of it is that the conventional project management wisdom, which in fact you kind of said a few minutes ago, is your job is to deliver on time and in budget. And I contend that a very large percentage of projects are destined to fail from the get-go because they are initiated prematurely and don't have an adequate understanding of what it is that they need to deliver or why. And they end up with budgets and schedules which are woefully inadequate and frankly impossible uh, to make the projects truly successful. And so they're failing not because of poor project management, although the project manager is often the one who gets blamed. Okay? They're failing because those projects were initiated in ways that they can't succeed.
We didn't get the requirements right. We didn't deal with why we're doing this. We didn't deal with what's the
Funny you sh-
foundation.
Funny you should mention it, and that's been a major thrust of my uh, career for many years, and that is getting the real requirements right. And when you do that and define your scope in terms of real requirements that deliver value when they're satisfied, um, projects then you're in a position to identify how to satisfy them and what it will take to do that. And if people say, well, I don't have that much time or money, then you say, well, what is it that you don't want to satisfy?
Yeah, yeah. We hear it a lot, don't we? We hear people chopping the edges and cutting the costs, and so often we focus on that execution of the project or that that project management piece, but forget all the rest of the stuff, even the testing as well. If you had to pick one of those disciplines that's most misunderstood by others, what would it be and why?
Well, I would start with requirements because that's where everything starts. And I think most projects are off on the wrong foot or not on the right foot, which isn't exactly the same thing, but they both take you where you don't need to go or don't shouldn't be going. And so I would say that I've been banging the drum for what I call real business requirements for a long time. Uh, I have a book on it, so over 20 years old, and uh, you know, basically unknown in the industry, in part because of folks like IIBA, who have their conventional wisdom that they tout and kind of squeeze out other people. And PMI tends to do the same sort of thing, although not as much, I don't think.
Sorry, because they're specializing so much, because they're just drilling down to the one spot.
No, because their view is wrong. They're looking at the wrong stuff. They don't understand this concept of what I call real business requirements, and they have more strength and power than I do, and they get to control the conversation, and the conversation continues to be what it is that they say, and they're missing the part that leads their projects astray.
So, I mean, real business requirements. Let's get some clarity there for our listeners, please. And I'm concerned a bit because I kind of thought that those two organizations were getting more into okay, it's no longer on time, on budget, on scope, but it's all about the business. It's business value. It's making sure we're connected to the big plan, to the big picture, to the strategic plan. It's more about the return on the investment. I could be very wrong, but business requirements.
Okay, well, I'm not going to get into the argument about where IIBA and PMI are
Okay.
headed because that's subject to change at a moment's notice. Uh, but the real business requirements are business deliverable what's that, when delivered, contribute to providing value. And they are satisfied by products, systems, software, services, and so forth. Okay. And when you look at what Babcock and Pimbach and the industry that founded them, industries that founded them, focus on when they talk about requirements, they are talking about requirements of the product, system, or software they expect to build. Okay? And the problem is that they tend to define that product prematurely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And in fact, they skip past everything and pay lip service to meaningful value.
Yeah. Um, and I'm gonna try to hit into the why. I often think that our projects are so mission critical that we want to rush them out. We want to rush into the build. I think some of our projects are, too many are glitzy and shiny, and we want to move quickly, and we don't want to do the homework at the beginning. We want to skip the beginning part because we are rushing into the fun, exciting, and or return on investment piece.
Well, I think it's a little simpler than that. I think that uh, people understandably, uh, I mean, I don't think they're consciously saying or thinking that they're skipping anything. I think they've made a decision in their own mind about what it is they think needs to be done, and they want to get going doing it. And the problem is that more often than they realize, what they decide needs to be done turns out not to accomplish what they need.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then of course, then they can blame it on the project manager for not managing, quote unquote, because things didn't get done on time because the budgets and schedules were woefully wrong, in part because as the project proceeds, it creeps, and much of creep is not new and different. It's stuff that could have and should have been known but wasn't.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? So you're suggesting that we get our eyes get taken off the ball because the creep sets in. All and you've done. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, Robin has got a couple of great. We call them bites at projectbites.com, and you do talk about the creeps. And actually, you've been one of our guest speakers at Project Bites Live, our monthly events that people can check out on the main menu of projectbites.com and attend for absolutely no cost. Robin's talked about the creeps, the creep family. It's an important piece. So you're suggesting that while the design is there, the business value wasn't addressed. So project managers, Robin, have a tendency to say, "Listen, this is what you told me to build. My job wasn't to worry about whether it worked or not." Hard to blame a project manager for a product that is not delivering what it was supposed to deliver. We've got people that we ask you to build it. We hear the specs, and a good project manager will say, "This is what you told me. Sign it off." And as change comes along, we will address it.
Yeah, I mean, in the non art IT and typical project world, I mean, consider the Edsel. Uh, Many people remember the Edsel, which was a colossal business failure. But I mean, as a car, Edsels work just as well as Fords and Chevys and everything else. It's just that they didn't fit the market need that Ford Motor Company thought they were filling with it,
Mhm.
and it was a colossal business failure.
So
Okay.
interesting. So this business piece, this business value, this why are we doing it, who are we doing it for, and how will it be used, and will it be used? Will it be used is the critical issue that you are addressing here. Saying if we miss this piece and we just design the car, we just think about a driver driving a car, and there's your cat. There you go. For those who are listening and not watching, a cat just came out onto the scene here and jumped over Robin's head. That will probably produce. I like this. You'll produce a great car. But if you didn't think earlier about how it will be used and will it be used, then the project is doomed, right? The lights are going on
Well,
now, Robin. The
I mean
lights.
that's related, but the question is what is the need that people are going to satisfy? Okay? And is that necessarily in the instance of the Edsel, um, is that need something that an Edsel will fill?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Robin, if you were to redraw the map, what should requirements, call it quality testing, project management, leadership, how should they actually all fit together? What does the perfect picture look like as we try to wrap up?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I'm not. I try to be visual, but I readily acknowledge that sometimes diagrams are pretty hard. And I think that on the one hand, the real business requirements need to be the starting point, and I feel that they need to be discovered. And too often they are dictated and they turn out to be wrong. Okay. So part of what happens is that scope definition very often messes up the whole project
Hmm.
because scope is defined prematurely, and then all kinds of decisions on budgets and schedules and tasks and so forth get based upon this definition of scope that is handed down from somewhere. And sometimes it's just assumed, not necessarily handed down. But what happens is that I find that the definition of scope should really be an outcome of the requirements discovery process. Part of what you're discovering is what it is that needs to be accomplished, and that's the scope.
Yeah.
And then how you accomplish it is the work that gets managed. So I would put discovery of the real business requirements at the heart of your diagram. Then that gets coupled with quality and testing to make sure that those things are delivered appropriately, uh, both in terms of procedures and processes followed, but also in the products and services that are produced. Okay. The project management is kind of guiding all of that. And, you know, I I can remember talking to many clients and students and so forth and saying, who defines requirements in your organization? They say the project manager.
Whoops.
Well, but the fact is that an effective project manager knows that they need to know the requirements before they start doing stuff.
Mm.
And so, in fact, some projects succeed because the project manager, in fact, does define the requirements.
Which isn't a really good fit, as we know, because requirements and scope definition and that whole business drives from one side of the brain as opposed to the other. Robin Goldsmith, this has been a great visit, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to ask you one last question, Robin, but before we go, please check us out. Check Robin's content out on projectbytes.com. Go to search all, filter on Robin Goldsmith, and you'll see his bites there. He will also be the guest speaker at an upcoming event that we'll be running, one of our monthly events called Project Bytes Live in March of 2026. And we'll make that available to all as well in the bites. Robin, I'm going to leave you one last question. I published about 12 or 13 years ago a book called The Keys to Our Success. When I asked project managers and project people, what's the one nugget you take into every project that makes you successful? And if I were to come back to you and ask you that question, what would your answer be? What's that one thing that you, if I brought you into a project or brought you into our organization, that one tool, thought, idea, or nugget that you always have?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I was giving that some thought. And one of the things that I realized is that I'm not always that good at sound bites. So I don't necessarily have a three-word answer for you.
Oh, it doesn't have to
Uh,
be. Okay.
okay. Um, I I was reflecting that uh, back when I mean I've taught project management for a long time, and teaching it and practicing it are two separate things. But I find that actually doing projects gets enhanced by teaching about it,
Hmm.
and a lot of people look at it the other direction. And But I found that when teaching project management, it made me step back and look at it in a different way from what you do when you're just enmeshed in the day-to-day battle. And one of the things that I realized in my project management training and in the courses that I was doing was that there was there was something missing in the project management industry's view, okay, which of course is uh, uh, you know basically captured in PMBOK. And you kind of alluded to this that PMI had a big change in its approach to project management, what, one or two PMBOKs ago, okay, where all of a sudden they stopped talking about tasks and resources and budgets and schedules, and all of a sudden got into all kinds of squishy stuff. And that's you know, that's good and bad. They lost sight of some of the stuff that was necessary, but I'm not sure that they really did good service to the part that they were missing. And I've come to realize that the part that they were missing was leadership.
Hmm.
That the original PIM-BOK really ignored the fact that this was all done by people. Now they've kind of gone the other direction, but I don't think they've articulated it very well. I'm not sure that they're doing any better job, maybe worse, because now I think it's kind of confusing. But I would certainly say that people are the keys to projects, and I am the first to acknowledge that that has not always been my strength. It certainly isn't the strength of many project managers or people in other roles in the projects. I mean, yeah, programmers were, historically non-human or interacting with
Right. Yeah.
non-humans.
Yeah.
Okay. I won't make any comments on those who are communicating directly with ChatGPT, but that's a joke between David and me. And but
It's good.
I think that the people, the leadership part is truly critical, but you've got to couple that with having a meaningful understanding of what's needed.
I love it. Robin, I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to take the answer as it's all about the people, the leader. The leadership is the piece that is so important in any project. I get it. I also agree
But
with you that
but it has to be coupled with
with
doing
that,
the right stuff
with
for the
doing that
right
right stuff,
reason.
which is your specialty, which is your message, which we really love. It's really important to understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, where the value is, and understand those business requirements before you get to the project requirements, before you get to the let's okay build it, and then that leadership piece fits in. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Bite Size Project Manager. I'm David Baird. I say thank you to my friend Robin Goldsmith out of somewhere in Massachusetts. Where are you?
Needham, outside of Boston, most prominent because two of the major TV stations are located in my town.
There you go. That's important. Robin, thank you for joining us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well done. Well